Okay, let's get ready for actually starting our game at this point. And so you've got your account set up, you've got your project set up. Now I do want to go back one step. In that last video, I was having trouble, as you recall, where it wouldn't keep my file name. And what I realized is Scratch has added a component of safety and privacy, and they really want no part of students putting their actual name in their project names. So instead of your first name and last initial, just put your two initials. So in my case, I would put MF Sharks and Fish. Okay. So if yours reset like mine did, go ahead and fix that right now. Okay. Now, as we get ready to get started here, over on the left, you're going to see your script block area. This is where the programming blocks, or the lines of code, if you will, are going to come from. And then over here is the script area where you're going to drag those blocks. And this, of course, is your stage. And all of this was already explained in the Scratch overview. As soon as you open your project, their trademark sprite is the Scratch cat. So no matter what you do, when you start a new project, you will always start with this cat on the stage. But all you have to do is hit the trash can down here and below the stage area, and hit delete, and the cat will disappear. Okay. The next thing we want to do then is add the shark, because the shark is the sprite that we want to use. So if you go to this little cat icon with the plus, that's your sprite, add sprite icon. So you're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up a whole bunch of categories to pick from. And since we know a shark is an animal, we're going to go in the animal category, and they're in alphabetical order. So if you scroll down, you'll see two sharks. But we want this shark because his mouth opens and closes a little more dramatically, you can see. And for our game, which is a little bit more cartoon-like, this particular shark is a better fit. So you're going to click on Shark 2. Now that you've got your shark on your screen, you can see that this is our background, or our stage area. And right now that shark is pretty darn large, and he's taking up a pretty good percentage of the space that I have to work with. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to change the size of that shark. So here on these command buttons underneath of the stage, there's a size bubble, and you're just going to go in there and change that 100. And let's just try maybe about 75. As you look at this, you're welcome to make that size whatever you want it to be. But remember, you want to make your game somewhat interesting. And if your shark is too large, then he's going to hit every fish, and it's not really a big challenge. So somewhere in between is good, but you also don't want them super small, because then your fish are going to be minute and itty bitty. So I think that 75 is probably a pretty good guesstimate. All right, now our first task is we want our shark to be coded so that each time we hit our arrow keys, he will either go up, down, left, or right. So for each one of those arrow keys, we're going to have to write some code. Now notice that our shark sprite is selected down here, so that's how we know that the code we're writing here will impact that particular sprite. And you can see it shows you that little image up here at the top as well. So as we explained on the intro video, we have several different types of code blocks. So right now we're going to need an event block, because the event blocks are what get things started. It's what kind of begins the action. So what we want is you want to grab this when space key is pressed, and you're going to start with your up arrow. And then we're going to need, the first thing we want to do is tell it what to do when we hit that up arrow. So in this case, we're going to want that shark to move. So that's clearly going to be a motion block. And what we want to do is we want to tell that shark where to move to. So if you might notice down here in these command buttons, these are called your your X and Y coordinate or location. And so as I move this shark around, right now he is sitting at 24 horizontally at the 24 point on the axis, and on the up and down axis he's sitting at -3. Okay, so if I move him, he is now currently located at -128, -91. Obviously, if I'm in the bottom half, it's going to be negative. If I'm going to be in the top half, it's going to be a positive coordinate. Okay, so what we want to do is make our shark move 10 steps. So the way that we're going to make that happen is we're not going to say move. We're going to tell him to change the X coordinate by 10 steps. Okay. So to do that, we want to go and you're going to scroll down a little bit and you're going to need the one that says change X by 10. Okay. And then once you have drug that down, your excuse me, I'm sorry, gotta go back. If you make a mistake, you just drag the block right off. Since Y up and down are the vertical coordinates, I should have grabbed change Y by 10. So since the positive is in the upper half, that would be the up arrow, changing Y by positive 10 to go up. I'm then going to go back and I'm going to go to events again, and this time I'm going to drag another event block and I'm going to change this one to the down arrow. And then again, I need to go to the motion blocks, scroll down a little, and I'm going to get that change Y. But this time, since I'm going down, and we know that the latter half, bottom half of our stage is a negative coordinate, so I'm going to want him to be going down -10. Okay? Now, that looks pretty simple. We still have right and left to do. However, there's a faster way, because if I right click on this group of blocks, I can just duplicate that sequence and drop it down here. And in this case, I am going to change that to the right arrow. Actually, as I'm looking at this, I should not have duplicated because now I'm on the right and left, so I shouldn't be using Y, I should be using X. So scratch that idea, but remember that you can duplicate blocks later. Didn't quite work in this scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and change my X by +10 for the right arrow. And then one more time, grab this, and this is going to be my left arrow. And I want to change my X by a -10. Okay. So if you look now, I can use my arrow keys and my shark does in fact go up, down, left, and right. So looks like it's all awesome. But the problem is it's kind of weird, isn't it, that when I go left, if I hit that left arrow key, that my, notice I hit my left arrow key and nothing happens. Why? Because I forgot to change this to left arrow. So I guess I didn't really notice when I was testing those out, it didn't move around. So you can see how a very simple tiny mistake can screw you up. Okay, so now when I hit my left arrow, you can see my shark moves, but he's facing the wrong direction. It's like he's swimming backwards, which is kind of weird. I don't think most fish or sharks swim backwards. So what we want to do is we want to make an adjustment to the directional buttons, and we want to tell the computer which way we want him to point, because the computer really only knows what we tell it. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about the way he appears, so that's under the looks blocks, and you're going to want to say, I'm sorry, it's not under looks, it's under motion, and we're going to want to go point in direction. So this is only applicable for the right and left. So what you want to do is you want to squeeze it right in between, because we want that direction to happen first. We don't want it to happen after it's moved, okay? So the right arrow needs to point in direction 90, which would be going to the right, because just like the up and downs, positive and negative, the same thing is right and left. Right is positive, left is negative. So then here what we want to do is we want to change, we want to add yet another point in direction. And we're going to slip that in right in between there. And you can see that when you drop those in, it just kind of clicks in between them and clicks like a puzzle. So that's kind of handy dandy. That left arrow then, instead of pointing 90 degrees, it should be pointing backwards the other direction, so -90. Now you could swirl this little spinner around, but it's just as fast to type in there if you ask me. All right, so now I've got my fish going, or excuse me, my shark going, and he goes, oh, and you go, what the heck? Now he's swimming upside down. Yes, he is, and the reason is because there is a directional button right here, and when you click on that directional button, there's a special button right here that's called left and right. And what that does is it allows Scratch to understand that it's changing directions without rotating. So what you want to do is it's literally click in this direction button and click on this left and right button, and that will fix the problem. Okay, so it's kind of a strange thing, but that's how it works. Okay, now one more time. I go up, he works. I go right, he works, and he points right. I go down, he works, and I go left, and he points the right way. So at this point, all of your directional arrows are ready to work, and your shark is starting to kind of come together. But now you can see the interesting thing here is that whenever the game starts, this shark is going to start from wherever he ended the last time you moved him. So what we want to do now is put some kind of starting code in so that when the game begins, we always have the shark starting in the same spot. Okay, so to do that, you want to go to the event blocks once again. We're going to kind of put in a green flag, and this is kind of a game kickoff button if you think of it that way. And when that flag is clicked, the first thing I want to happen is I want my shark to automatically go to the center of my screen. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to choose the go to button. And in this bubble, in both bubbles, I want it to go 0, 0. And what that's going to do is it's going to make that shark start dead center on your stage every single time you start your game with that green flag. Okay, so if I click on that green flag right now, you can see he automatically goes straight up in to that left corner. Okay, now we're going to want our flag, what am I saying? It's getting late, guys. We're gonna want our shark to be, we're gonna want our shark to, change costumes. But I see I do have a little bit of a problem because my shark really should be facing to the right. And I think when I did this down here, I accidentally had that 90 in there. So I'm gonna change that direction to a positive 90. And that way he starts out facing this way, okay? Now, another thing I'll point out is you can see that these coding bricks or blocks are kind of spread out, and it doesn't really matter. You can see on the scroll arrow over here, it doesn't matter really if they're off the screen, further up, higher down, it doesn't matter. They're all going to happen based on when the event block tells it to, okay? So at this point, the last part that you need to do for part 1 is to adjust the shark's costume. And what that means is we're going to basically have 2 different shark pictures that we're going to flip-flop back and forth through so that he looks like he's opening and closing his mouth. Okay, so it's a fairly multiple step sequence, but I'm going to walk you through that right now. So the first thing that we want to do is to go to in that event block, we are going to go to we're going to go to the grab a forever loop. So that's going to be under control. And under control, we are going to grab one of these here forever loops, and we're going to put it right underneath this. And so what it's saying is as soon as I start the game, I want it to go to 0, 0, and then forever switch costumes, okay? So what we want to do first is tell it which costume we're starting with. So all the costume stuff is under looks, okay? And there is a command called change costume, or switch costume, excuse me. And you're going to drag that in to this forever loop, okay? You're going to set the pull down, and if you look up here, you can tell which is which. So shark A is the closed mouth, B is the open mouth, and C is the sick shark. So I would think that you would probably start with the closed and then go to open and back and forth. So we're going to start with 2A, right? So we'll get back over to our code. Then we're going to start with shark 2A. Okay, and then we're going to switch to costume 2B. So we'll put in another one of these costumes 2B. And we look like we're all set. It's going to forever go back and forth. Problem is, when I go to the green flag, he's going to look like nothing's happening because it's happening so incredibly fast that it's almost low it isn't, okay? So there's another command under control that we can add to make this work for us, and that's the wait command. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag that wait command right in between them, okay? And we probably don't need a whole second because you can see it's kind of a little slow. So we're going to change, whoops, sorry. We're going to change that wait command here. We're going to stop him so he'll stop looking like he's glitching. And we're going to change that to a 0.5, okay? Now if I hit that green flag again, he looks again like he's glitching. And if you look here, logically thinking, we've told him to go to the middle of the stage. We've told him to go to the costume that is 2A, which is the closed mouth. We wait a half a second, then we go to the one that is the open mouth, but then this is a forever loop. So it hits the bottom and it goes right back up to the top and switches immediately to 2A. So what we need is another wait command in between. So we'll grab a wait and we're going to drop that under here. And now I believe our shark will work beautifully. Open, close, open, close, open, close. Okay. Oh, notice how it's a little delayed. What did I forget? You might have noticed this wait command should also be 0.5 so that it's consistent. And now I think it's going to look a lot better. There we go. Okay. Now that 0.5 is kind of up to you. If you want them to open and close a little bit faster, then you can always change that number slightly lower than 0.5, but just make sure that it's not too fast or you're not going to really even notice that it's happening. Okay. So that is the end of part 1, Sharks and Fish. And at this point, your shark is pretty ready to go for the next part of the project. Good job.